It can be a base layer or it can be a mid layer. And it's a full sun protection hoodie. And it's 50 plus UPF rating, lightweight, and it's going to be called the Halo Sun hoodie.
And there's just a bunch of fucking tofu eating fucking man bun wearing dorks and no pussy at all. Yeah.
Hold down, baby! Woo! Is he down? Is he a big one? Is he down? Real on the truck, trying to get the damn shot. Bullshit, man. Look at the thing.
4 more shorts. Yeah. That sack fucking hanging out. Don't fucking doubt the fucking 6mm. Shoot him, shoot him. All right, hold on. Hold on. Let's go.
Let's go. Those fucking Amish would have shot that motherfucker.
Got a face only mother can love. That's great. I think there is no doubts with that intro that we are not kid friendly.
It sets the tone rather well.
It starts it off well. And we did a podcast the other day and we were both medicated.
Yes.
Jake was on painkillers. I'm still sick. I was on NyQuil and whiskey, and we've got a lot of feedback from it. and our employees, one being Jake's son, and then Luke, they did us dirty. They did us dirty on that picture, man.
Dude, the skin on the YouTube video is intense.
Yeah, the thumbnail, they had us the worst possible pictures, and they said the medicine cabinet was the name of the podcast. So it was pretty interesting.
But the feedback was good that we should do it more often.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like this morning, I'm still hopped up and sick on NyQuil, but Jake has not taken a pain pill, so he may be more.
I'm trying to fucking man up right now and see how it's going to go. So
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Firing on all cylinders.
I do have 2 people told me something on it. We had a tripod question about shooting off a tripod, and the guy had brought in the words thermals, and I don't hunt with thermals. I really have only done it one time. And we said that we'd use a tack table. Well, Justin Crowsley told me that you want to lock in at night so you don't lose anything.
Oh, that's probably a good point.
Yeah, which I've never thought of because I've never done that. Yeah. So if you're using a thermal, he says you want everything there and everything locked down so you don't lose it and you can find it quickly.
Well, in that case, tell him to put a fucking Arca rail on there and just clamp in on
an Anvil 30.
Yeah.
So, well, today on the show, we have Kurt Racicot from Stone Glacier back again to go over. He was the earlier adopter of the 6UM. Actually, he was there at the shooting school when we had the first one. And I will say, Kurt, I thought Kurt would be like, no way, it's a 6mm, because if you've listened to me and Kurt in previous podcasts, he was a 378 weather.
I was gonna say he made rather an extreme jump from fucking one end of the spectrum to the other. Really,
he did.
He must trust you significantly.
Well, I think he trusts what he saw in person, probably not what it came from me. You can't trust me or Form at all. You can't fucking trust us. So I think he saw it in action. I guess we'll let Kurt speak for yourself. Well, what first turned you on to the 6UM, I guess?
Well, I think the first thing is I always have like magnums and speed and like the Weatherbees and the Roms and all that. But I started shooting a 6 Creedmoor more often and actually took a couple of animals with it. I guess it was 3 years ago, and saw just how lethal those smaller calibers can be. And then just how much more accurate and how much more confident I felt in it, and being able to see your own impacts and have a follow-up shot and have some data after you pull the trigger. And so once I saw that it seemed to kind of blend the two of those together, where you could still scratch that itch of the Magnum, but still have a very manageable, lower recoil, very, very good ballistics. And yeah, it's turned out to be quite a lethal round.
I think probably that Kurt may have he's killed a fucking plethora of animals here, maybe the widest range of any other guy shooting 6UM in general. So the question would be, now that you've been with it for a few seasons and shot the scale, the scope of animals that you have, is there an upper limit, let's say size or type of animal, that you would not grab that 6UM and have 100% confidence in?
Um, yeah, I guess that's a little not not for the lower 48 by any stretch. Um, I guess an argument could be made, and I haven't done enough brown bear hunting. I did when I was living up there, but it might not be the ideal in those situations where you can be in really tight quarters. But man, based off of what I've seen, it's performed on some pretty heavy boned animals that we have down here, and on elk and at range and through shoulders um and of course that I only tested it with one bullet. So
Yeah.
He's 108s the whole time?
115
Or 115s,
D-Tex,
okay,
nose
okay.
ringed.
Yeah.
The best, in my
Did
opinion, the best bullet.
did you purchase a good inventory of those bullets for yourself?
well, I have 500, and at
Uh-huh.
the rate I'm going right now, I should be pretty well set. I think what would we
Okay.
shoot 6 of them this year? you
Uh-huh.
know so
Yeah. Yeah, that 6UM's not a plinking gun.
Ryan whiffed and scared me a little bit, so we went out and bought 5,000. And then I know he's got a good source on his side.
I have a good inventory. Jake has a good inventory. So
Yeah.
if you're ever in need, Kurt,
Yeah.
we probably got you covered. Um, the the feedback like that was interesting to me from you, because me and Form go back and forth on this, and the one outlier that we have not shot, and I don't think you've shot, is a black bear, but he was more nervous with that DTAC about thinner skinned game, at distance. So now you've shot a few sheep and a few deer, whitetail and mule deer. What have you seen from the 115 DTAC at the ranges you're shooting? Because now you've shot one at 125 yards on the deer side or so closest, and you shot a sheep. I don't even remember. Can you kind of go through what you've seen from the wound channels on those? I would say they're not as thick, or not as dense as elk, if you want to call elk dense, but they're deer and sheep.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the interesting thing to me is that, and like I said, I had shot several. Well, between me and my kids, shot several animals with 108 ELDMs out of a 6 Creedmoor. That once again, that was a very lethal round as well. But it seemed to perform different in different situations. And the one thing about the 115 DTAC that I've seen is on the entrance, I get very, very little bloodshot, even if you hit bone. And sometimes the entrance hole is really difficult to find. But the wound channel after it's into the cavity, I can't tell you really what's going on. But just an amazing amount of damage. And I've had all but 2 of them have exited on elk, sheep, deer, and antelope. And then, the ones that haven't exited, I've found, like, jacket on the backside, underneath the shoulder, or, that's primarily been what's happened. But, yeah, it's pretty devastating, the damage that's happening on the inside. But I think that's the biggest thing, is you just don't see a huge, uh not wound channel, but bloodshot, a lot of damage right on the entrance, like I've seen with the ELDM, which I don't know if it's expanding more on impact, but it might lead to the whole thing that Form was talking about with the bear, that on all the animals that I've shot, when you come up to them, it's not like there's a huge hole on either side where there's this gaping blood trail to follow. It's almost like everything is still contained inside. And but like say on the inside, it's just kind of a mess.
Hmm.
And you shot antelope with them too, correct?
Yeah, I've
I
shot
don't know.
2 antelope with it.
And what would you think your
Yeah.
average? I'm just trying to, because I get these questions every day, so I'm trying to get it from not my perspective. The thinnest skin animal I've shot with this is an axis deer, and it went like 10 feet. I just shot it through the lungs. What do you think the average distance traveled after you shot one of these animals? Like your average difference of all your animals have went after they were shot?
Well, the farthest that anything's traveled has been the sheep I shot this August up in the Yukon went about 35 yards uphill, and it was just one shot, and it was a couple ribs back and slightly quartering away, and then exited through kind of the lower shoulder, but didn't break any bone on the other side, and that was at 585, and he ran, and it took out part of the heart, and he ran probably 30, 35 yards uphill and then just instantly down and was like dead on his feet after that and just rolled
Rolling,
back down. And that
rolling
was
back
the
downhill.
farthest.
Yeah, rolling
Both
back down the
animal,
hill in the pitch.
yeah. Yeah. The antelope I shot this year just was quartering to me. And that one exited. That was at 440 and it just dropped right where it was. Um, Elk, I had the same thing last year. That one was at what, 640, entered in behind the shoulder, the right shoulder, exited through the left shoulder and broke the left shoulder, and it just dropped right where it was and didn't take another step. So, um, yeah, not very far, 35 yards. That's the farthest,
Hmm.
and
And
all
I
of them
and I
except for two have been just one shot.
and I am 20 questioning here so I can get all these answered from some, like I said, somebody that's not me. What was the closest shot and what was the farthest shot and what was the wound channel like in those?
The closest shot was this year on a mule deer buck, and that was at 90 yards, and it was in the timber, and that one was kind of unique in that it wasn't facing 100% dead away from me, maybe just quartering a little bit to the right, but it was in the timber and the only shot I had, and went in just in front of the right back hip and just ran right up into the top of the lungs and went down right there. Um, and I ended up shooting one more time behind the front shoulder, and that was a hard shot, just because I mean you're in the timber, you don't know exactly what was going on. So that one was at 90 yards, and then I shot sheep a little over 600, and ended up shooting that one. That was two shots. They hit both lung shots, and it went 20 yards, and both of them exited. Um, so those are the longest ones, and the only I'm trying to think. It was the closer shots that didn't exit. For example, Skylar shot a buck just last week that it was 120 yards, and it was again a long hard shot. And whatever happened when it first went in there, whether it started to come apart apparently, and did not exit, and found the jacket on the backside underneath the shoulder. So yeah, they're all a little bit different, but man, when you open them up, it all pretty much looks the same.
How Skylar, how big is that's Skylar your daughter or your son? Skylar could go either way. I have no idea.
Skyler's my son. He's 11. Yeah, he's
How
what,
big is he?
65 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, 65
That's what
pounds.
that's what I was getting at with watching people shoot this and handing it to my wife or handing it to a one of Jim Carr's daughters, handing it to one of your kids. Is this is a my opinion, this is a 300 ultra performance out to 1200 yards that kicks like a 6.5 Creedmoor. So you can take it from you, wherever you're hunting, hand it to a child, daughter, anybody that's recoil sensitive, and they're in the game and they're shooting with no problem, in my opinion. Do you see that in that rifle too?
Oh, for sure, and especially shooting suppressed. That's been the number one thing for my kids is just not dealing with the concussion. They shoot so much better, and a little bit of recoil over, say, that 6 Creedmoor. They don't notice that. Now you spin that can off there, and you put a brake or something else to reduce the recoil, and they don't want to shoot it anymore. I don't blame them.
Oh, the suppressors are a whole nother ball of wax that people are missing out on. Even Jake has finally came to the suppressor side. He fought us for a long time, but he's here now.
We went really far. We went all the way from not using them to making them.
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah.
sweep
We
too.
went from one side to all the way to the other. Oh, interesting. I told somebody it's funny when I get questions and I said, well, I'm gonna about sheep, about 6UMs, about sheep hunting, and Stone Glacier is kind of synonymous. The whole brand has a ram head with sheep hunting. And you went doll sheep hunting this last fall, correct?
Yep.
And you used the 6UM, obviously we just talked about it. But the guy asked me, do you use the same setup for your your Montana hunting as you do sheep hunting? And can you go through your actual rifle setup?
Enhance your shooting experience with STOCKY'S stocks. Are you tired of struggling with mediocre rifle stocks that hinder your performance? Imagine having a high-quality rifle stock that not only enhances your accuracy, but also provides superior strength and a lightweight build. STOCKY'S Stocks offers a wide range of premium rifle stocks manufactured with hand layup carbon fiber construction, a patented carbon fiber AccuBlock, and multiple finish options. Whether you're a long-range shooter or a hunting enthusiast, our stocks are perfect for you. Experience unmatched precision and durability with STOCKY'S stocks. We provide stock installation instructions, technical support, and guidance to help you choose the right stock for your rifle. Upgrade your shooting game today with STOCKY'S stocks.
Yeah, yeah, I do. And so yeah, as a matter of fact, it's the only rifle that both myself and my kids hunted with this year. So, and it's all set up exactly the same. Of course, when I went to Canada, I couldn't take the suppressor, so I had your micro brake or your 2-port brake on it. And but yeah, outside of that, it's all set up the same. So it's a Tika action. Of course, you guys barreled it with a proof barrel. I had you do the all the fluting and the action work as well with the coating, and then running the Tika rings on it. I have a Night Force NX8 on it in Mills, um, and then a Hunt MDT Hunt 26 folding stock on it. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So an MDT mags.
The barrel
And
linked.
yeah, that's 24-inch barrel. And then I have a couple of different cans that I've had on it. CGS can, and then also have one of the backcountry titaniums from Silencer Central.
What is your velocity on that DTAC with a 24-inch barrel?
With the can on it, it's 3450.
Holy shit.
Good Lord.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's a laser
but the
beam.
interesting thing about it is that it just the ballistics and what you have going with it make it such an easy rifle to hunt with as well. Just because, so if you're at 7,000 feet of elevation, it essentially becomes a 10-mile-an-hour gun. And so when you start to think about your wind brackets being able to work off of a 10-mile-an-hour gun, super simple to do in the field. And then it's the same way with when you're using mills on your drop chart, that you can just work right down it. Everything in between 300 and 600 just changes by 0.5 on a round number. So even though you're getting your dope, well, at least I'm getting my dope from, I have a Sig Sauer uh, rangefinder, so it'll give you your dope right there, but it's just a quick check. Yeah, and you know right where it's at. So it's pretty sweet that way too.
It is, and now that we have the brass coming in, and all you really have to do is fire form it. And Jake, I'm sure will offer a fire forming for you for a fee if you want to buy the brass. But I beat this horse to death, and people are probably tired of me saying it. The 6UM, once you get past the fire forming issue or part, if that's an issue to you, Jake, UM can reload every piece of your brass for you. It is the easiest rifle to plug and play, in my opinion, for danger space, wind calls, recoil, just to get behind and shoot. If you take out the fire forming part that people have issues with. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, offering it now with a 30-degree shoulder as well, you don't have to fire form.
Yeah, you can.
So
You got to figure out what velocity that'll be.
Yeah, we don't know how much velocity you're going to lose or gain from the 30 to 40-degree shoulder, but basically, the brass, the way it comes from ADG currently, is a 6 SAUM with a standard 30-degree shoulder. The 6UM, as Ryan and everybody knows it, is the 40-degree shoulder, which that's the part that requires the fire forming. So we will have reamers, dies, and brass with all have that 30-degree shoulder that will require no fire forming also, if that's the route you want to go down. You just lose a little bit of case capacity, lose a little bit of velocity.
And the biggest hang up, for people not buying in was the head stamp not being 6UM, which we have solved that, and having to fire form it, which you guys can do. Nick's already said, I'm probably going to be fire forming the shit out of that brass. So now you guys can handle it and you can just hand it off. So people like Kurt, Kurt's got a busy life. He could just come buy it, have it loaded and shoot it.
There was actually an email I literally just answered this morning that asked if we were going to sell loaded 6UM ammo. And that answer is also yes.
Interesting.
Yep.
Kurt, anything to add to put the final nail in the coffin on the 6UM speech today?
No, I think we've done a good job of covering it.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of information there that wasn't coming from Ryan Avery solely.
Yeah, I answer at least a question a day about the 6UM, and I'm like, God dang, I'm got to be a broken record to these people by now.
Yeah. We just need a good blog post, a good article on there, and then you can drop it. Leave it alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kurt, I had one more question from a guy about sheep hunting that knew I was going to talk to you. Do your stove, like jet boil, reactor, what do you use sheep hunting, and does that change from Western hunting in the States, or do you use the same stove?
No, I don't. So I have a early season stove set up and a late season stove set up. And so the early season, because you just don't have to take as much fuel and you don't have to make water because you're not having to melt snow. So it only gets used once a day and boil your 5 or 6 ounces or whatever you need. And then you kind of move on. So you don't need as much. And I use more of like I'm trying to think of the equivalent. I believe it's the Whisper Light. No, it's a Pocket Rocket. Sorry. I have a Pocket Rocket, and then I have a smaller one that's an off brand that's super lightweight. And I normally throw that one in as well. Depending, or leave it at the strip or leave it at base camp or whatever. So you can have a backup and one extra can of fuel. And that's all I take early season. But then late season, I use an MSR reactor with a little bit larger pot, just because you're always having to melt snow to make water and that.
That makes sense. I just can't imagine.
I think a good answer for that guy, if you just own an MSR reactor, it covers the gamut there.
It does.
If you're not trying to save a few ounces on dropping the Pocket Rocket and so on, but it's a really good stove.
Yeah, there is issues getting into that later cold weather in Montana. Freaking using those butane stoves to boil water takes a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Well, Kurt, we cannot have you on here without asking you about the Stone Glacier product offerings in the 2025 season. And we can finally talk. I always hear, why don't you guys talk about bow hunting? I was like, well, predominantly we're not bow hunters, but Kurt is here to save the day for the bow hunters on the Shoot to Hunt podcast. You guys are coming out with a stealth series for 2025.
It's a good word too.
It is. And
I like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And your actual thing you sent me was specialized for stealth. Can you kind of go into the pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we've had, we've specialized in years, or kind of had our focus on alpine style hunting, and we're seeing people who want to be able to use these and in all different types of situations, and archery being one of them. And so we've had requests for some softer fabrics that are more well suited to timber brush type archery hunting. And so that's what we went after this year. And So we started with one of the first ones is it can be a base layer or it can be a mid layer, and it's a full sun protection hoodie, and it's 50 plus uh, UPF rating, um, lightweight, and it's going to be called the Halo Sun hoodie, and it's going to be offered in two colors, and works well in just the warmer conditions, moves moisture, um, all those early season type hunts. And
And
the other thing that this one has that we focused on too, that I focused on, is creating a little bit larger volume on the hood. So you get slightly more face coverage than, say, you would with our Helio hoodie, but not making it so large. Some of the sun hoodies can come around where it starts to restrict your vision, and it doesn't move with you. So you end up turning your head into the hood. So tried to keep it as much coverage as you could, but still be able to move with your head. And so that's going to be one of our base layers. As far as the outerwear, we're going to be coming out with a ultralight packable rain gear piece. And it's going to be called the X1 jacket. And so it's a 3-layer Pertex fabric, very lightweight, and really designed for the Northwest hunter, or actually any of the lower 48 hunters, where you might go 7, 10 days of the season and never have to put on your rain jacket. But you might have that one day where you really need it. And that's really what this piece is set up for. It might live in your pack a majority of the time. Can also be used. One of the things that we've been asked for are a windbreaker type piece for that early
Ooh.
season, something just to buck the wind, and it works very well for that. And so it's a little bit softer drape than, say, the M5, which is a true hard shell, designed for that, where you might be in the rain gear, 5, 7 days on an Alaska hunt. This is more along the lines, just pull it out when you need it. And that's going to be offered in two different colors. And once again, really tried to focus on picking a fabric that is waterproof, but still is quiet, light. And then paired along with that, one of the things we've been asked for is a more all-purpose jacket for archery hunting, um, that can be worn a majority of the time, is windproof, has some insulation. And so this year we have the headwall jacket, and it is a 3-layer. It's unique in the sense that it's created from a 3-layer waterproof, breathable fabric, but we don't seam tape it. The reason that we went with a 3-layer waterproof, breathable fabric is that you have something, number one, that moves moisture, because that's what the vapor barrier is designed for. But it also creates a windproof fabric. And then pair that with a soft outer face and a microgrid fleece backer on that. And you have that can be used early, mid to late season in those temps, anywhere from 45, 50 degrees, all the way down to sub-zero temps if you layer with it. And it has the same cut as the rest of our jackets, so you can still wear it down or any other insulation pieces with it. But once again, really trying to focus on a soft hand feel and a quiet fabric for the archery hunters. Before I roll
Good
on to the
deal.
next one, any questions?
Yeah, I got a few. First off,
feels like you're in school.
yeah. Can I raise my hand? Yeah. It's like it's funny to me, like you rip, like Kurt. The first time we ever did a podcast was one of your first podcasts, right? At your house, and me and Tanya came over there.
Yeah, I think it was the first.
Yeah, and like the difference between you then and now, you're a machine now.
He was just rolling.
Yeah,
Fucking rolled right into the next.
just
next.
fucking right into
Yeah.
the next.
He was practicing for his trip he's going on right now.
Yeah, holy crap! That was awesome. The sun shirt. I always thought sun shirts were stupid. And we went to the night first challenge, and they gave us a sun shirt for shooting the event. And damn, dude, I live in that thing and all the time while I'm hunting. So I'm glad you guys made a sun shirt, and I'm glad you put that Polygene in there, because the Night Force one, I don't know what brand it is, but after a day of my fat ass hunting in it, it stinks.
Oh yeah.
So that polygene helps a lot to keep that scent down. And my question is I did not know pronghorn was a color.
Yeah, I know. I know. It
It kind of has that color. It
Man.
kind of looks like.
Yeah. The little things with product development, between trying to find unique names that fit the product, that fit your brand, and then figuring out the colorways, because some of these colors you might choose just probably wouldn't fit the hunting market.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And the X1 jacket, you know, they throw around like 2.5 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer. What I find interesting, can you kind of explain this? What is the difference between like the 3 layer X1 and I believe your M5 series is also a 3 layer, but it's also much thicker? Is the 3 layer just much thinner, or what's the breakdown there as far as durability for heavy rain, or you're saying this one's for light rain? Can you kind of go through the difference between the
this
two jackets?
Yeah. So I think and it's a really good question, because you're kind of dealing with two different things. Um, okay, well, let's start with the first part of this. So you talk about they're both 3 layers. So you end up with a face fabric of some sort. So it's a nylon face, poly face, whatever that fabric has. Your middle layer is going to be your waterproof breathable layer. And so there's microporous and there's non-microporous. And then the inside layer is a trico backer, and it's essentially a mesh. And really, what that is there to do is to protect the middle waterproof breathable layer. So it's almost like abrasion resistance, so that whatever you're wearing underneath of it isn't rubbing directly on the laminate, because those really aren't designed in most cases for high abrasion. So the basics of the 3 layers, and the difference between the 2 layers and the 2.5 layers, different companies will quantify those different, but basically a 2 layer ends up being a face fabric and then your membrane. And those are the ones where when you put them on, when your skin comes in contact with the 2 layer, and especially if there's any moisture, it can feel a little bit sticky if it's directly on skin, but it ends up being a lighter product. And so you just kind of have to decide what you want to do. Now, the difference between this and say the M5 are it's a slightly heavier face fabric, and it's a slightly heavier internal membrane, and it's a slightly heavier inner trico backer. So you basically just bone up all 3 layers for durability more so than water resistance. That does a lot of times equate to being more water resistant once it's tested. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the basics between it. So the X1 jacket would definitely not have as high a durability as the M5, because they're designed. That's why they're at different price points as well. They're designed for different applications. The M5 is designed to put on and wear an entire sheep hunt if you have to. This is really designed as an ultralight, packable, packs into its own pocket, really small, keep you safe and dry when you need it, the few times a year. No, not necessarily, not by the MVT testing standards. Um, so the X1 is 20 and 20,000, 20,000 on waterproof and MVT, and the M5 is slightly higher on both of those. But yeah, yep. But once again, those are laboratory test situations. And so there's some of the stuff that plays into it from a real world application that's a little bit different. And then of course, just different applications. How much are you sweating? How many layers do you have underneath? How much moisture are you really holding? What's the outside temperature? As the temperature starts to drop, it can become, depending on the piece, it can become harder to push that vapor to the exterior, where you think if it's raining and it's 70 degrees and you're sweating underneath, warm conditions, you're going to naturally just move more moisture out from underneath of it in those warmer conditions.
That
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
On the head wall jacket, like, is it kind of similar? I'm trying to put it in perspectives of people of a product that people have seen before. Is it similar thickness and soft shellness like the Jetstream from Sitka?
I am not sure. Um, I just haven't had my hands on that. I would say I would say when it's in your hands, it's going to feel more like a windbreaker than a hard shell rain jacket. And so
Base
tried to
fabric's a little
minimize the
softer.
number of seams that you have in it. It doesn't have pit zips. Um, just tried to make it a minimalist piece that
and
is
it's
as
de- and,
light as possible in your pack.
and it's designed to break the wind. That's correct.
Well, yeah, it works very well for that as well. Also because it's a laminate, so your waterproof,
Gotcha.
breathable membrane that's sandwiched in between there is a non-porous. It does not have holes, so by definition, it
Right.
is windproof.
It's interesting you say it's non-tape because everything's going to be compared to other products like the Jetstream, and I don't know the name of the cryptic jacket that uses the shoulder fabric, but I may be wrong on some of
Oh,
these
okay.
actual.
Let's go one step back. So the X1 jacket is a rain shell and it is taped, and that is a 3-layer waterproof breathable.
Right.
When we go
And
to the
this,
headwall jacket,
right.
the headwall jacket is also a 3-layer waterproof breathable fabric, but that is not seam taped.
What's interesting,
So
I like to
that
know,
one,
like in the Jets.
the headwall jack,
Go ahead.
yes. So that would be more along those lines. Yes.
Okay. But I like that you didn't tape it because every
Yep.
time
Yep.
I've
I'm
tried a
tracking what you're
Jetstream that,
asking there on.
yeah, and every time I've tried a Jetstream, it is fully taped, and man, I get really fucking clammy in a Jetstream, and I know other people do too. But to where I don't with that shoulder one that's untaped, that's also very similar to the Jetstream. So it's very interesting that you left it I don't know if that was on purpose, but to me, I'm a sweater, so I do like the untaped version if it's something that's a little more breathable. Jake's a sweater too, so he'd
Run
probably like that
moist.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we run a little moist.
Yeah. Well, and that's the reason that we used a 3-layer waterproof breathable, because it's a way to get a windproof piece that has breathability. So many times, windproof can come from just some sort of non-permeable membrane in there, and if it doesn't move moisture, I can't speak to other brands whether they do or don't, but that's the reason that we went with the 3-layer waterproof breathable, not because it's a 3-layer waterproof breathable, but primarily because it's breathable. And then, of course, you just get the positive attributes of having a waterproof fabric.
Would that be warm enough to the head wall be warm enough to use as your insulation layer in August, September hunts?
Absolutely. Yes, yes. For anybody that's owned the de Havilland jacket, very similar to the de Havilland jacket, but with a softer feel and just a little bit more warmth.
Okay, that's all the special needs questions that I have.
Looks like a few more new
You
products
got
there, huh?
Yeah, you got a few more down there.
Oh yeah, yep. So yeah, along the lines of the outerwear, we also have a new pant, and that's the Praxis pant, and this is a 100% polyester pant. And once again, tried to focus on keeping a really soft feel to it, as quiet as possible. And then also added just a couple of more pocket features. For example, the zippered thigh pocket for anybody who shoots a release. Um, and it ends up being a safe place to keep that. We use the same fit block that we have on all the rest of our pants, and still knee pad compatible. Same back pockets. So for anybody who's owned any of our other pants, your fit and function are going to be very similar. The primary difference is that because it's a poly and not a nylon blend, it is going to be slightly quieter.
Does it have side vents? I can't quite tell in this picture.
It does. Yep. Yep. It has side vents. They aren't as long as the de Havilland pants. The de Havilland pants, the side zip goes all the way down to just below the knee. These are going to come down just above the knee. So just slightly higher.
Does it have what I really appreciate about your other pants, the fat waistline adjustability for the fat people?
Yes. Yes, it does. And I also wanted to throw in that we've added some more half sizes.
Oh, nice.
And so this year we have, when we went up through, we had a large and then you jump directly to an XL. Now we're having a half size in there, a large XL. And then also we're adding a half size in between the small and the medium. So there'll be more
And like the
size
comfort,
options on all of our pants.
that's always better. More SKUs for you, but better for the consumer, in my opinion. Like, what comfort rating we give these without wearing something underneath them? You give them
Oh, very
temp
high.
wise.
The fabrics, because you're using a polyester fabric, the fabric on the interior is softer than, say, a nylon based or a nylon
I
blend.
guess I get more clear. Like temperature rating. These are for
Oh,
August,
temperature
September.
rating? Yeah, you can use the full gamut. I was archery hunting antelope this year in August, and it was 80 degrees, and they did well. And then, of course, layer up underneath them as the hunts get later in the season.
Nice. I'm actually excited to see your Reflex gaiters because I used a similar gaiter from First Light, but I destroy them. These, if they're built like your other gators, these should be pretty hardy. Can you kind of talk about them?
Hi, I'm Brett Jarbo, CEO of ADG. For the past decade, we've been dedicated to crafting the highest quality, 100% American-made rifle brass to meet all your hunting and long-range shooting needs. This year, we're excited to introduce our new 6.8 Western and 270 WSM cases. With over 250 years of combined industry experience, we're committed to excellence. Look for our distinct orange boxes wherever you buy your reloading supplies. Whenever you need quality rifle cartridge cases, choose ADG Premium Rifle Brass, where precision meets performance.
Yeah, you bet. This is a unique one. It's so on our Terminus backpack, which you have one that's made from UHMW PE fabric, and
Mhm.
some of the we've talked about this before. Some of the common UHMW PE fabrics that are out there that are branded are Spectra, Dyneema, all using the same sort of base material thread. And this is a stretch version of UHMWPE. And so it's a very unique fabric. At times it can be difficult to work with because it's very tough to cut, but it is four-way stretch and has a really high tear and abrasion resistance. And so, like you, I've used quite a few trail type gaiters over the years, and they do. I mean, a gaiter is a gaiter. It's like your boot. There is a lifespan on them. It, it just sees so much wear, but really wanted to focus on creating a trail gaiter that had more than a couple trip lifetime. And so that's what we focused on. And the other thing about this is that the boot strap is replaceable. And so that's one of the things that obviously goes out first on a lot of these, especially on dry ground, which these are designed for. And then the sizing on these, because it's stretch and because you can also adjust the bootstrap and lengthen the bootstrap out, it'll work on anything from trail runners, almost tennis shoe type volume shoes, all the way up to the lower volume hiking shoes. It is not designed for, say, a late season mountaineering boot. That's not the purpose of it. It's really early season, primarily guys that are using some of this really light footwear to be fast and light on the trail and keep all the debris out of your shoes and socks.
One thing that's not talked about with your standard gator, and it looks like this gator too, is I use Vivo barefoot. I use their zero drop shoe, and your bootstrap is not this huge chunk that I feel every step. You don't feel it at all when you're walking, which I think is not talked about enough because a lot of people are moving to the barefoot, kind of slim, whatever you want to call them, shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the
Yeah.
same like
And
that Dyneema material too? That's that bootstrap?
yes, yes. So it is. It's the same. It's the same as our current gaiters, our late season gator.
Nice.
Yep. Slightly different construction and how it's put together, but all the same materials.
The only I love the Terminus backpack, and you did some custom work for me, so I really appreciate that, Kurt. But the only knock is that sucker when it is freezing is super loud. I imagine these could be loud when it's freezing out.
No, that's the interesting thing about it is that it does not have a laminate. So
No kidding.
these stay soft the entire time.
And you put some miles on. You didn't trash them in one season.
No, huh? I have multiple pairs of them. So yeah, we have 2 seasons on them before we came out with them.
That is fantastic because that's the biggest beef. Why I don't use them anymore is because I couldn't find one that would last a season.
Yeah.
Nice. And you got a redesigned backpack. Can't imagine that from a backpack company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. But did you see what it has on the side of it?
Yes, I did. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to spoil the surprise. But in my opinion, me and Kurt have Kurt's come out to shooting school a few times, and me and 04 Malicious gave him the what's for and who has it on the side pocket. So I appreciate him going that route.
Yes, yes, it does. So yeah, along those archery lines, taking some of the feedback that we've gotten from archery hunters, and the other thing I have to say too is the Archer pack. So we have redesigned the Sky Archer for this year, but the Sky Archer is as far as any of our pack frames that have the load shelf. The Sky Archer, anytime I use one of those, the Sky Archer is the bag that I use. So it's been my preferred bag the entire time. So it's kind of fun to work on this project to circle back to it. So a couple of the things that were asked along this line is, especially long range hunters, those that are going north, sheep hunting, those types of things, being able to have a stretch pocket on the side to carry either an arrow tube or any type of stuffable type items where you just needed to contain it. Some guys are carrying a tripod on that side because, of course, with archery you can carry it on either side. So on the right side, it does have a stretch pocket, a large stretch pocket, tall, very similar to what we put on the R3 series now. And then the other thing that we have done is that we have moved the zipper on the left side. So the zipper was a little bit closer to the top, which made it difficult to access keeping your bow strapped onto the pack. So now by dropping that zipper a little bit closer to the frame, you can open the bag and not have to take your bow off the back when you're traveling with it. And so those are the primary changes that we've made to the Sky Archer this year.
So this just has it on the, the right hand side, correct? Just the stretch pocket.
Yep. Yep, it does.
And the 5900 also has one on one side, or is that both sides?
No, the 5900 does not. The R3 5900 does.
And that's the military version.
That's the military version. Yeah, the Coyote
Okay.
version. Coyote or multicam.
Kurt, who do you got to know over there just to get them on both sides on every pack you make?
Well,
He already
We're
did you a
slow.
solid and put him on there in the first place, and it's never enough. He's like a woman.
um, we are migrating that way.
Like,
It's being heard.
like from you, you are a phenomenal backpack designer, a designer of lots of things. In your opinion, like, and I'm generally asking this question, what's the downside to having a stretchy pocket on both sides?
Weight.
It's not like there's not much weight there, I wouldn't think.
Huh.
No,
Don't know.
there isn't a ton of weight. I think that part of it honestly just comes from personal preference a little bit. Well, there's two different things. The first one is when it rains, all those stretch fabrics hold moisture, and so if you're on a wet hunt or in wet conditions or walking through wet brush, that stretch fabric is going to hold that moisture, and then anything that you put in those stretch pockets is going to be wet. So from like a sheep hunting type perspective, then it limits what you can actually put in there. And I think I've always just preferred to have as tight and trim of a platform on my back as possible. Something that doesn't get hung up. And so when you get things in and out of those pockets, you start to gain volume. So really it just kind of comes down to personal preference, and do you prefer the the convenience of just being able to stuff something in there opposed to actually going in your backpack? Um, I don't have a really good answer for you, but that's it's probably more
That
just personal preference and trying to keep the weight down. And yeah,
the first time I ever met Patrick Smith, who started Kafaru, he had, I don't know if you remember the Long Hunter. The Long Hunter, do you remember
yeah,
that at all from Kafaru? And I think you and Patrick are very, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're very simplistic in the way you want to use your backpack. All like the Terminus, the form factor is slim, easy. There's nothing flashy, but it gets the job done. So I asked Patrick Smith the same thing because I was a side pocket guy. I said, Patrick, why don't you put the side pockets on the side of that Long Hunter? And he had a very short answer: because they're fucking stupid. So you gave a much longer answer than Patrick, and yeah, I appreciate that. So it's funny.
Anyway.
I know. Are you there, Kurt? Oh, you're back.
yep, I'm
You were
here.
gone. Now you're back. So going into the future, we may see some more side pockets on the side of Stone Glacier packs, is what I'm hearing.
Side pockets on the side.
Yeah,
On the side.
you're hearing that correct.
And like that's the 6400. Just general, how many days could Kurt get out of a 6400 pack sheep hunting?
Sheep hunting, I'd say, well, your limiting factor becomes food. That's where, I mean, geez, once I get all my stuff in there, it's, the pack with just gear is less than 50% full for sure. So really your volume gets consumed by your food. So when you go 10 days of food consumes an enormous amount of volume. And so easily on the 6400 is 7 to 10 days. Um and then of course the time of year also plays into it. So if you're going in August, like I did the August September, like I did this year, and you can take a quilt and you don't need as many insulation layers, you're able to pare things down a little bit. You don't have to take as much fuel, you don't have to take the big stove, because you don't have to melt snow. You save quite a bit of volume, so you can stretch that out even more. But in late season, you just, like when we're elk hunting around here, you can fill up a 6400 pretty quick with just food and extra volume of a sleeping bag and fuel cans and the larger stove. So yeah, I think time of year depends on that.
What's the longest you've ever been out unsupported? One trip.
14 days.
Damn,
Uh,
you're a
that
tough
was
cat.
the longest
Tough
one,
cat, Kurt.
and
That's a
I
long time.
I mean quite a few in between the 10 and 12 range.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, most people can't say. Most people would go crazy at about
Yeah.
day 2. I'm with you. I've never been out that long, but man, I've spent a lot of days by myself, and it's nice.
It is. It is. I think what's interesting about it is the first, say, 2 or 3 days. Um, it takes you that long to kind of get into the swing, and it's everything. It's being unplugged from technology and just the things that consume your mind on a daily basis that aren't there anymore. From what do I need to do at work? Do I answer emails? Texts, communication, just all of those things that we spend so much time doing. After about the third day, all that stuff just kind of disappears. And after that, the days just seem to fly by. You'd think that or at least for me, you'd think that they'd go slower, but man, you wake up in the morning, hike, hunt, glass at night, and the day just flies by. But it seems to take a few days to get into it.
Funny you say that because I have the same thing, and it is day 3. Like, the first 2 days, I have all this stress that's kind of unwarranted stress, and then day 3, it's like, "Fuck it, I'm here. Whatever's happening's happening, with or without me. I might as well focus on this hunt."
Yeah.
So, I know, you probably can't let too many secrets out of the bag, but, is there any, like, hot secrets coming out of 2026 that we can hear, or is that still under wraps? Like, anything you can
I
do,
like how you
like,
played that one.
Just say no, Kurt.
I know that there is some things, but I cannot say, but damn, I'm excited about some of the things you got coming in the future.
well, well, maybe that's the best place to leave it.
There we go.
There we go.
Exciting
Yeah.
shit for 2026.
Very.
Yeah.
Something that has
Yeah.
been, in my
No,
I'll give it
that is the fun part.
it is something that has been needed in the hunting industry that I don't think the niche has been filled, is coming in 2026, and I'm not saying a word.
Okay.
All right.
Any parting shots, Kurt? Anything you want to say to the Shoot to Hunt listeners, Rockslide listeners? We're all about the same there.
Yeah. Man, I think we've done a pretty good job of covering things. I appreciate you guys having me on. And oh yeah, I guess the one thing I should mention is that these new products that we're coming out with, we're scheduled to release those that first to second week of January. So ballpark at the 10th is
Yeah.
when we're gonna have
Find
a
them on the
drop date
website
the
around
new
that time.
stuff.
They'll be shipping
Yes.
around the 10th.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be purchase and shipping on the 10th.
Mm.
I want to ask last question. How did your flannel sales do? 'Cause I do like flannels, so I wonder how they did.
Oh, they did great. Yeah, we were sold out and waiting to get resupplied on several different colors. That's the other thing we did was we added a couple of new colors as well to the flannels. And a side note on that, you'd think designing a flannel would be pretty simple after doing technical apparel, but man, it took me a long time to figure out a shirt. All of that stuff was very different. I mean, I think you could go down a can path, but to kind of learn how somebody makes a dress shirt or a flannel shirt and trying to match sleeve lengths, because yeah, I'm a taller guy, so every large flannel shirt that I have after I own it for a year ends up being 3 inches too short, and there's no
Mhm.
stretch on them. And yeah, as simple of a
It
thing as it seems like, took a
I
lot of
can
time.
imagine, and the color palette and getting it all right. Is it still novel to you, like driving down the road or walking through Bozeman and seeing your products on other people walking around?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't feel any different now than it did 8, 10 years ago. I mean, certain parts of it definitely do, but man, I appreciate that there are people out there that have worked as hard for their money as I have and choose to spend them on our products. And especially being involved in the design part of it, because it's kind of like they're trusting in what you're making for them, and that's where they choose to spend their money. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you putting out a good product, Kurt.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Well,
if that's
thank
all
you.
they got, it's not hard to find Stone Glacier. You can pretty much go anywhere and throw a rock and hit something from Stone Glacier out there on the interwebs and the hunting side.
Thanks for coming on, Kurt. We appreciate you.
Oh
Kurt,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
thanks for listening.